Hello, Michael here from Small Robot Studio with another Renderman tutorial. Today we're going to be having a look at Xgen for Maya and Renderman, how to create the maps, and how to apply texture to your maps as well. Now, Xgen can be incredibly finicky, so it's really important that you follow every single step that I'm going to do. So the first thing we're going to look at is our Maya environment variable, and this is found under your documents, Maya, and then your Maya version. We can open this with Notepad, and what you're looking here, yours is going to look a little bit different to mine because obviously I've done some other things to it, but what you're looking for is this line here, Maya_path/bin, and then Maya_path/plugins/Xgen/bin. You need to make sure those two lines are in your Maya environment variable. So it's absolutely fine if the only thing your Maya environment variable looks like is this, it will be fine. The next thing that your system may need for this to work is a system environment variable. So we'll just bring up the Windows search and we'll just go edit the system environment variables, and we're going to look for environment variables, and you'll see that I've created one here already. Can edit this. You see I've got a couple of different ones, and it needs to be set to, if you create a new one, it needs to be called path and then Maya_path/bin, and then you can just hit OK. I'm not going to create that because I've already got one, obviously. And then the next thing that you need to do, and this is really important, make sure that your scene and project directory do not have any special characters in their file path. So that's no spaces, no exclamation marks or dollar signs or anything weird like that. Just keep it real simple. I'm going to set mine now, so I'll set my project, and my project is d:/Renderman/rm23 tutorials, and I'm going to set that. And then we're going to save our scene, and I'm going to call this rm23_. If you need a space, use an underscore, and underscore is fine. I'm going to call this fur tutorial. Okay, so now we can actually start doing our fur, and this is pretty straightforward. We're going to create a sphere to start with, and we're also going to create I'll just use a dome light here just so it's simple. Sorry, focus on that. I'm going to go to the Xgen shelf and click the Xgen button, and then create a new selection, create a new description with your mesh selected. And you'll need to create a new description name, so we'll call this one fur tutorial, and the collection is going to be called tutorial. You can call these whatever you want. It's not super important, but again, naming conventions, no spaces, no special characters. We're going to use groomable splines, and we're going to create. Okay, because Maya wasn't letting me create a new description, I've just cancelled out of that. I'm just going to create the default one. Alright, so you see that's worked. Hopefully that doesn't cause any issues. Xgen is so finicky, so if you've got a project and you really want to have a furry character or grass or something like that, be prepared to deal with some difficulties because it can be quite painful, frankly. I don't use Xgen anymore. I use Houdini for all fur and hairy characters, so I'm just doing this as a to help you guys out. So we're going to go into the grooming tab, and we're just going to increase the density to 1500 so we get a lot of fur, and then we're going to click the update button, and you'll see that updates it. If I take off the visibility of the grooming, then you'll see that you can't see the grooming lines anymore. So we'll go into the primitives and we'll taper that out, probably about halfway on that one as well, and then we'll update again. Every time you make an edit, you'll need to do an update. Then we'll go to the grooming tab, and we'll create we'll go to the modifiers tab, and we'll create a new modifier. We'll just use noise, and we'll create a magnitude of 0.25. And if we update again, so we'll just break up the silhouette a little bit, make it easier for you to see. Finally, just double check that we've got Renderman set as our renderer, which is very helpful for this. Output settings, operation renderer set to Renderman. We're going to create a shader. Now, first you'd want to create a Marshner hair shader. That would be your inclination. Just as an example for this, I'm going to use the Pixar surface to begin with, and then I'm going to switch it to the Marshner hair shader. We also need to create a custom parameter for our color texture map. So we're going to call this fur color map. I'm going to use American spelling for you Americans out there, and I'm going to make sure that the drop down is set to color and click the plus button. So now we have a color map. In here we're going to click the drop down and create a map, and this is going to be called that by default. The map resolution is just going to be how detailed it is. I'm just going to set it to 100, and start color white is fine. We'll click create. So now that we've got this file path here, we want to make sure that we click the save button next to it every time we make an update to our color. Now we've got the paint tool selected, but we're going to use a texture map for this, so that's fine. So if we render right now, we won't actually get any results. What we need to do is jump into our Hypershade editor. Sometimes when you do this method to the assign shader, it doesn't like to work. So I'm just going to select the collection, right click and hold on the surface shader that we created, and assign material to selection, and we'll just get a confirmation there that we did in fact assign it. So if we map this out now, you'll see you've got the surface, pixel surface there, but we need to grab our texture map first. So we're going to select the sphere which the fur is assigned to, and just open that up with the piping. We're going to select the texture node that's here, and we're going to open our texture, which I've just got under assets, fur color. Okay, so our texture is loaded, however it's not loaded into this. So what is happening here is this file that was created when we created a texture map has just been plugged into here, and we have a custom shader parameter, and for Renderman to read that we need to create a primitive variable. So we'll create a pxr prim var, which is one of these nodes, and we're going to run the result RGB color into the diffuse color of our Pixar surface, and the variable name is going to be the variable name that we created. So in this case it's fur color map, no spaces, fur color map. Change the variable type to color, and that should be everything. We will run an IPR now and see if I've remembered to do everything correctly. It doesn't look like it. Because what we didn't do was save our map. Run your IPR again. There you go. Now you'll see down here I'm getting like 1 million errors. That is because I'm getting conflicts with Redshift, so just ignore that on mine. Unless you have Redshift installed, you won't be getting a similar thing. But you see that the texture is in fact working. Now if you had UV to character and you had a UV map assigned to it, obviously that would work a little bit easier than this. This is just using the default UVs from the sphere. So now let's create a Marsh here shader, and this might be what throws a lot of people, and assign it. So we'll clear that out, and we will grab the Renderman tab, select our collection, and right click here and create a Pixar Marsh here shader. So the diffuse color is gray by default. I'm just going to change it to light blue so we can just detect if we're making a change. And you'll see that it looks very grey, even if we update this texture file, because the texture file is not even loaded, so it's not going to make a difference anyway. Very grey, even though we've got a blue diffuse color, and that's because of the reflection. I'm not going to go really hard into how to set up a Marsh here shader here, but if you do want to use your texture map, you can create a new prim var if you want, or you can load in the other one. So I'll just select that, I'll load both, and then we can just run the RGB out into the Marsh here and select diffuse color. If we IPR again, still not getting much of a result. So I'm just going to hit 3, select that node and hit 3, and then I'm going to run the result RGB into the specular color R, specular color TRT, and the specular color TT. And now you will see that we're starting to get the diffuse color on there. Now this is not the correct way to do it at all, but this is just probably what you're seeing if you're trying to use a texture map and it's not visible, is because of the way that the Marsh here works with the way it transmits light. It makes it very subtle. And if I turn off the dome light and just use a direct light, so you can see the way that works there. Now you do want to use the Marsh here shader for fur, but I haven't got a tutorial just yet to cover that, but I will go through that momentarily, I believe. So that should get you started anyway for Renderman, and Xgen and fur, and you can use this for grass and all sorts of stuff. Xgen is very, very particular with file paths and things like that. If you want support on Xgen, I'm not going to be able to provide very much at all, because like I said, I don't really use it at all. I'm pretty much always in Houdini now for fur and hair and all that sort of stuff. That's it for this tutorial. If you found it useful, make sure you leave a like so other people can find it, and if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, as we're bringing out CG and illustration tutorials every week just like this one. Become a patron and access tutorial assets, bonus content, a private Discord and more by clicking the link below.